Good morning, everybody, and this is your S&P 500 day trade setup for today. So we've had a couple of days of green, should we say, a nice green pin bar, followed by sort of a follow-up day, and then we had a green inside bar here. So if we just drop down to the time frames and start looking at what is on offer at the moment. So first things first, on the 8 hour, we are in a downward trend. There's no two ways about that. We have broken the first trend line, and that is that trend line there. So that trend line has broken. We have tested it with one bar. Not entirely convinced that it is a decent test. And then we have the next trend line, which is running with the 155 EMA. So for me at the moment, looking at the oscillators, we've got diversions. You see a high, you see a sort of a lower high forming here, and we should be moving to the downside here. That's kind of the theory anyway, but I'm very, very skeptical. So I just want to line up this level here. So you can see this was the previous support level. We broke below it. We found it as resistance here, then we closed above it. We gapped below, we now closed above it again. This is the area to be paying attention to. That's 43.65. If we come down to the 3 hour, you can see we had a 3 hour rejection bar off that level, and then we basically continued to close above it. Moving averages starting to point to the upside. Okay, we haven't got a crossover yet, but they are definitely indicating that something is brewing. Oscillators are indicating that something's brewing to the downside. We then have this inverse head and shoulders. So you can see there's a shoulder, there's a head, and there's a shoulder. Very similar pattern to the Dow. Now, if we start looking at the hour, you'll see the inverse head and shoulder very clearly. We have two basic necklines. The first one is right where we are now, and then the next one will be at the high of last week. And you can see that was definitely tested yesterday, rejected off, came back to test the trend line. So it was a buying opportunity here, but too late in the session for me, and then all the way up. So at the moment, if we can hold above 43.65, I would probably anticipate a potential break above 43.89, and then where we're heading is somewhere up here. So that would be 44.32. So 44.32, and then there's another little level above it at 44.42. So between 44.32 and 44.50 would be a profit taking area. It's also going to line up kind of nicely with the downward trend line. So that's kind of my view at the moment, and it's going to be 15 minutes. So you need to watch this on the 15 minute. Let's just look at yesterday's setups, if there were any, and there wasn't really much. We'd gapped down massively, lots of negative noise, and then we just gradually clawed our way back up to close a gap. Now, if you'd taken the risk, well, probably it worked out quite nicely for you, but there was no real setup apart from this trend line break and retest here, which is pretty late in the session, and the gap had already closed. So I don't think, I wouldn't have taken that, and I didn't take it. So that's kind of a setup we had yesterday. So for today, you're looking at some kind of support in this zone. So somewhere between 43.58, maybe as low as 43.50 and 43.65 is a little gap here as well, and that is around 43.42. So yeah, that's kind of the view that I've got. Is if we can find support here, then you're looking for an attack at 43.89. We need to get above 43.89 before we start getting some targets to the upside. But 15-minute oscillator is also indicating that is the play of the day. At the moment, you need to be very cautious. Keep your position size extremely small. Keep your stop losses really tight, because as I've been saying, it can change based on one politician opening its mouth. So at the moment, we really need to wait and see if sanity is going to prevail and see what the sanctions are going to do to Russia. But you can't help but feeling for the people on the street, because those are the ones that are impacted the most, while the politicians play their little games and make stupid comments involving nuclear weapons. So hopefully sanity prevails at the end of the day, and then we can get back to sort of trading our charts. Anyway, so you're reading between the lines. It's a very cautious, and if there's a genuine opportunity, we'll be in, but otherwise feel a lot more comfortable just hanging on to my cash and keeping it in my pocket. Hope that helps, and we will catch up with you tomorrow. Cheers for now.